Now, the point of this exercise with the big box store pricing is to capture the cost of everything, including the cost of money. Now, finding out what your real costs are is only part of the problem. Of course, the big box stores, they not only monitor and account for all the costs, but they're really nasty to their suppliers. They go out and they actively look for and destroy costs. They also know where to look for everyday added costs. And this frenzied attention to costs has made, at least in one instance, has created the biggest retailer in the world, and we all know who that is. But let's move on. Let's assume now that you know all of these costs for your business. What do you do with this particular piece of information? Well, how do you use this to create more business for yourself? Well, again, we'll go back to the big box stores for some insight and inspiration. At the end of the season, they're going to go looking for the 75 that they said that would not be sold. And sure enough, they find them. So yes, there's some unsold product. There is one that's been flattened by the forklift driver. 3 or 4 came back and they're totally unusable, and there's all sorts of bits and pieces. By working a little bit, they managed to accumulate, say, 25 of them that are perfectly saleable and in good shape. They then go and put those on sale. And what price do they have to sell them at to make a profit? 1 cent to make a profit, because they have covered all of their others here, including they've got all their profit. Now the trick here is that they can sell them at any price they want. So they sell them at $99 for the sake of argument and advertise the heck out of it. So the guy across the street, who is still selling his at his original price, is wondering what's going on. He's selling them for less than I paid for them. There must be something really wrong here. Must be the volume pricing. We hear that all the time. What happens with the big box stores is that at $99, it's towards the end of the season. They sell out completely. Everybody comes rushing in and says, well, you know, my lawnmower is just about on its last legs. I'll buy it now. It's a great price. They tell all of their friends and neighbors. They've done a ton of advertising. The guy across the street, Bob's lawnmower, is stuck with last year's model because he looks like he is ripping everybody off by having too high a price. And come next year, come next April, when the lawns are growing again, he's still got last year's model. But what if you're not a retailer? How do you use this in another business environment? Well, a number of years ago, I worked with an outfit, an automotive parts and service business in northern BC. I talked about this method, and we concluded that the way to make best use of it was to make use of the sales that his suppliers would give to him. The typical sale was on, say, oil, where he might get a 10% discount for that month. And normally he would pass along on a flyer to his clientele that 10% discount, and then they would buy accordingly. Well, our conclusion was, in working through this, that it was better to buy the necessary cases at the 10% discount, so that you have, in effect, ended up with every 10 cases you got one free. Now that free becomes like their model, an opportunity to open up and pry open new accounts. So he identified 4 new accounts where he had not been able to make any inroads whatsoever before. We went in with this carrot saying, you give me an order, I'll give you a free case of oil. 1 year later, he'd opened up a brand new territory with 4 new big accounts. In this example here, and the one I just told you about with the parts and service, they're using price against their competitors without dropping their price and without dropping their margins, and build the business. It's all how you do it.